Hello, welcome to our weekly astrological transits for this week, starting the 12th of August. So I want to, before I get too far, I just wanted to show the uh, outline of this and the aspects. I don't always show this because I think it gets confusing to a lot of people. But we're coming in this week with this, and I always start a day. I started in Tuesday, but even if we went back a day, it's still about the same. We just have a little different aspect with the sun. But this is very interesting. Um, Coming into this week, we have we still have our little trine going on here. We've got our Mercury, I'm sorry, our Neptune and Saturn conjunction. I've got to call it something, maybe a Nepsat or Sat-Nep, because they're kind of joined here. They're just sort of fused in this aspect right now. But anyway, we have them in their uh, little triangle to both Uranus and over to Pluto. So we have, all the outer planets and Saturn, all of the outer, they're all outer, all making this triangle. It's not a grand trine because we have the Sat-Nep making a sextile on either side, and then the two planets that they're sextiling are making a trine. Anyway, all this astrobabble is that it's a ease and flow. They have a lot in common. They're all outward or masculine signs. We've got the Aries masculine, we've got Gemini a masculine, we've got Aquarius a masculine sign. So they're all kind of, they all got the outward manifesting rather than inward seducting vibe. So this is very interesting that at this point in time, all of the outer planets are humming along with this outer push, this change, it's not like it's not subjected to you, it's more objective, it's outward flowing, it's not inward toward you kind of energy. So what does that really mean? It's like we have, I think, at this point in time, much more control over our outer destiny by using this outward radiance of energy to our benefit. It's like, really focus in on on what's good and what you want, where your desires are, and move that in that direction. This is like a little divine blessing here. In and of that, we have this really interesting, I don't know, I think they might call this a mystic rectangle. I don't know. But there's this odd, I don't look at a lot of the minor aspects just because things get too confusing. And I don't look at a lot of the asteroids either. And I think if you need to, we can, but I think there's just, astrology is confusing enough. There's too many things already, it's already overstimulation. And again, I would look if I had to when we have to or when we want to. But this is interesting looking at these minor aspects because these are I should say square and half squares. And it's kind of like squares because a square and a half, if we take that half off and give it to the half square, then we have this square type energy. That's just sort of a weird way that I kind of want to think about it because it's all sort of um, annoying, angstifying, is that a word? Things that are kind of take a little bit more effort. Things could be like under and over, kind of like under, maybe you don't put enough effort, then you overcompensate. Then you go, oh, I forgot, and then, oh, I give too much. Or, any kind of over under type of energy. And what this is here, it's involving the nodal axis. We have the north and the south node at 19 degrees of our Piscean, our mutable axis of Pisces and Virgo. So we have this mutable nodal axis at 19, and it's just over making those odd little angles to, we can see these to Pluto at 2, 2 degrees, it's off by 1, and then Mercury by 4. So it's just, 2 is 2 degrees one way, 2 degrees another, but it's, that half a square is 45. So anyway, it's making this very interesting depth of communication in destiny. This is a specific, I mean, every moment is a specific moment and point in time, but this is a very poignant one with think about what we're dealing with. We got the nodal axis, which is where we're going and where we're coming from kind of energy. We're going into more spirituality, the Pisces, the North Node, more confusion, more spirituality, more invisibleness, more behind the scenes, more feeling oriented, more internal knowing oriented, more sweetness, love, healing, compassion. And we're going away from the south node of Virgo, where we've known and we've been Virgo, we've been analyzing and using the left brain and being overstimulated and pushing and exacting and being too too many lists and too many honeydew lists and do this, do that, and driving ourselves and being neurotic and can't rest until this is done. It's like, really, at the end of the day, do certain things really matter? So this is that axis, and it's being tested and poked a little bit by Mercury in, the planet of communication, outwardness, just this really just I wanted to this thing communicating, energy, new things, stimulation, and it's bringing up the ability to communicate gadgets, and it's in Leo, so it's going to be dramatic, communicating dramatically or dramatically communicating about things or communicating about intense things. And then we bring in Pluto, which is, depth and death, rebirth, and, you know, bringing stuff from the dredges and dredging stuff out and getting to the bottom of lies and rooting things out in Aquarius. In this fixed sign, it says we got this fixed axis go. So we're going from this mutable to a fixed, or fixed to a mutable. So this is kind of interesting. It's like maybe breaking down old structures, um, crying it out being, focusing that passion. This is a very interesting little vibe that's going to be continuing here. And then one other thing, and that was we come into this week, we've got these little half, we call them the little half squares here, with the nodes, and then we've got another one with this conjunction of Venus and Jupiter, which I'll talk about in a second, over to Uranus. So we have this beautiful Venus, a benefic in Cancer, likes to be there. It's comfy for Venus, and in Jupiter, exalted in Cancer. Very lovely. This is just so nice. And it was there yesterday at 13 degrees, coming into it like on Sunday, at 12, 13, and then we go 13 and then day 14. And we're kind of riding together. But it's like a little niggles, a little like uncomfortableness with Uranus. So maybe something can come up. Maybe, it's not horrible, but it's like you're going on vacation and then you forget your I don't know, something, maybe not your passport or anything like that, but you forget something, like your pair of glasses, it's like, oh man, yeah, or something. It's just something like that. Or it could be just something out of the blue that breaks the norm. This could be, with this nice, beautiful conjunction, this is benefic. Um, Things can be over exaggerated, over the top. This could be too much. And, maybe a little bit of Uranian um, out of the blue kind of breaks that a little bit. Maybe some information comes up a little bit and says like, well, do you really need that extra piece of cake right now? You've already had three. Okay, do you need another one? I guess not, or something like that. But anyway, it's just an interesting configuration, I thought, as we come into this week. As we come into this week, I like to give an idea of like where the moon's energy, because that's where we're going to be feeling. There's all of this stuff that's always going on, and I don't like to say this or use it like it's ruling us, because it's not. It's like the energies are there. When it's raining outside, um, I mean, it's not ruling you, but it makes you put on galoshes and take a raincoat and, maybe an umbrella. It's like we have to adapt to some of these things. So that's the way I like to look at um, uh, these configurations that happen. And then, if it's raining outside, it may be raining by me and not by you, so some of these aspects might affect me, but not you, at the different degrees. So it's like a weather report, basically. So as we're coming into this week, we have the moon is in a sign for 2.5 days. So I always like to tell people when you're feeling like crap, or something's going on, just wait an hour or two. The moon will probably change degrees and you'll feel better. And if not, it'll be like a good 6 hours and it'll definitely, change a whole lot. The next day it's usually changed out of that. And then, 2.5 days it's out of that sign totally. So that's the worst case scenario, like 2 days later, kind of. But and it goes round and round every month. But what we have is it coming into this week, we're just, ending like yesterday, just or this morning, it came out of Pisces. So it was out of that, it crossed over the North Node, but then it kind of, to me, the moon in Pisces is just really nebulous and it's like foggy and it could be sweet and it could be internal. A lot of internal, a lot of processing too could go on with Pisces moon. It's like you're in and feeling, and um, it's a good maybe a depthy moon to get at looking at parts of yourself. It's a really good part for maybe studying your own natal astrology every month. It's really an important thing for us to study our natal charts to understand ourselves. It's like a lot of these things takes a while for us to see. That's what I really love about astrology. It's a great tool to reflect on ourselves, on parts of ourselves and how we are, because a lot of times it's so unconscious, we can't see it. Everybody else can. People can see parts of you, but you can't sometimes, and it takes a while for those things to come up. You're like, really? I'm like that? I affect you like that? I'm me? My ego, I do that. I have that effect, either good or bad, I have that effect, or I really do, sorry. But uh, and then not to berate ourselves about things, but to like have some course correction. That's why we're here to learn. In astrology, these are tools, we get to have reflection on how we are. Do we talk too much? Do we not talk at all? Do we, inquire about others, or is it always all about ourselves? Or do we, you know, uh, yeah, all of that stuff. Just all those things that go on with all of us all the time in all of our relationships and all of our stuff. So it's a great tool to use is to examine ourselves and everything here. It's like it's again, it's not always about you all the time. So it's good to know where your stuff is and what degrees are resonating. So what we're moving into is a lot of degrees, and I'll show you at the ephemeris in a minute at the beginning degrees of signs, zero or like, the late 29 and then 0 and 1 and 2 degrees. A lot of those last and firsts are being triggered a lot. So we're coming into this week with, that Piscean dreamy kind of an energy and that emotional stuff. And then today we kind of get slammed into Aries. Things pick up. And as soon as the moon, goes into Aries, it runs right up against, the Nep, we call it the Sat-Nep, the Saturn Neptune conjunction. And any cardinal sign, it's going to hit these things, okay? Any beginning. But anyway, I digress. So the moon goes over and it hit first thing it kind of comes up, it's like here, happy Aries, all of a sudden, bang, it comes into Saturn. It's like, oh, I got this responsibility to do. Oh, I got that. And then it kind of spaces out. And then you might forget. And you're like, oh crap, what did I come in here for? What was I gonna do? Oh, maybe I'm second guessing myself. And then it moves on. But it was like very interesting energy coming into that. And it will do that every month. So it'll be kind of interesting to note, especially as they move forward into the sign. But we have that the early phases. So anyway, coming into that this week, we have this Aries moon. It's forward thinking, it's movement oriented, it's going to get things done, it's going to work through it, it's going to be a bit aggressive. It could be in speech pattern, energy, um, wants to shine, it's funny. It could be a little at odds with the emotions though, because it's more of a thinking and movement, and the moon wants to kind of feel. So it's like, oh, well, I gotta get her done. And then it moves, then it's like, well, it's looking forward to in another couple days move into Taurus. So the moon will then move into, the first part of the zodiac. What we have is like, it's just a real me, this is what I like in Dusty White's book, The Easiest Way to Learn Astrology Ever. He talks about octaves You got the first octave, which is, those first signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, and then the second one, and then the third one. But it rolls with the kind of moon phases. It's like you can think of that part of the zodiac and what that is. And in his book, he goes over it in so many cool ways. That's one of my favorite astrology books, kind of next to the ephemeris. But it's a great book. Um, Dusty White, the easiest way to learn astrology ever. So we're into the moon, into Taurus. That's like a really nice phase. The moon is exalted in Taurus. If it can't be, is it exalted in Taurus? If I'm thinking right. Yeah. Yeah. It likes to be in Cancer, but if it can't be there, it's happy in Taurus, and it's hedonistic, and it's pleasures, and it's secure, and it feels good and cushy and nice. And if it kind of gets through, it's kind of reward for maybe pushing through a lot of the Aries stuff. Use this moon the next few days to get things done, maybe to not be so emotionally tied or attached to things, but just um, to get through maybe without that. You turn that volume down a little bit. And then when it moves into Taurus, it's like to pay more attention to the inner. It's like an in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. And then it moves, later in the week, it'll move into Gemini, which will be more active in communication. And, again, the energy could get things done, but it could get a little scattered. It could get a little busy and a little too much. But then as soon as it moves into the sign of Gemini, it hits up against Uranus, and it's like, whoop, that could be really interesting. It's like, it could be fun and it could be scattered and frazzled. So if you're already overwhelmed and overloaded, then I would lay low. If you're bored, and too secure, and then it could be very exciting. So that's coming later in the week when the moon moves there. And then late in the week, well, the moon will go. Actually, I should go over that in just a second. I will. And then the moon will go over the our benefics, and it will go into Cancer, which will be really nice because it will move in its own sign and it will share its love over here. But we've got these few little niggles going on in here today. Now let's go to, actually I want to take this off because it gets too much to look at. Let's get rid of those. Okay. So we started this week nice. Mercury direct, but it's still just starting to move. It's pretty still in space, and it really won't move out of its shadow until next week. We got a bit for it to go, a good week before it moves out of this time. So I don't want to say don't start anything new, but maybe, it's like I'm kind of holding back on a few things myself. I'm using this time to just try to keep gathering a little bit more information, put more things together, work on it a little, dust it off. Otherwise, it's kind of like haste makes waste, make use of this time a bit before really launching forward into too many things. But we really have this, we've had this nice benefic energy the last few days, this conjunction of Venus and Jupiter, and it's still visible in the morning. You can still see it in the slightly north of east sky, if you can look east, slightly north of east. Um, Early, like I saw it up above my trees today, about 5:45. I think it was around that time. I'm on the East Coast. So it's still nice. And tomorrow morning, next few days, you'll still see them bright, bright, bright. They're so bright. They're the two brightest planets, and they're close to each other, and they're beautiful in the sky, real close together. Um, so anyway, that's really nice. So we have the moon in the first part of the zodiac. Mercury starting to go direct. We have this beautiful benefic conjunction. Very, very kind of nice energy on that. Supposedly one of the nicest weeks of the year. But I just showed you a little bit of those half squares and squares and a half with the nodes and Mercury and Pluto. So it could be, things kind of drudging up, getting to the bottom of stuff, communicating from the heart about things that bother you, or depthy things, or things that need to be rebirthed. All right, what else is going on this week? Let's see, I talked about that. Mercury direct, Jupiter, Venus conjunction, and that's again really nice. But again, it could be over the top. It could be too much. Be careful not to eat too many fatty, sugary things with that one. Um, So we talked about the Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto triangle, which is going to be there for a while. All the outer planets in that nice outward energy. We already talked about those. Let's see, the little pesky half squares. Oh, and then we have coming into Thursday. Let's move this a little bit. Move ahead here. Coming into Thursday, we've got a Mars sextile Mercury, and they're right here at this 4 degrees. So more of this outward masculine energy. We had this. Hopefully this can. Oh, never mind. um, we've got all that Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus trine. That's a sextiles and trines right there, which are outer planets, right? All that masculine energy, and then we have more masculine energy with Mars, even though it's in Libra, it's got to be diplomatic. It's got to get dressed up. It's got to look good. It's got to have manners. That outward aggression, um, uh, energy, enterprising, entrepreneurial. Got to look good and smell good to be good. Get way more accepted if you look good and smell good. So that's what Mars has got to do. That energy's got to be cleaned up and dressed up and ready to go and communicating over to Mercury. So they're in that sextile. So there's like an advocate for you, or you're an advocate for somebody, or you're bringing in, or somebody's bringing in, balance to that energy. And it's nice. It can be, really good for getting things done. All right, Moon there, those things coming on. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we're moving on into then Friday. Um, Moon will be making, as the moon goes through Taurus, it will be, in the early part here, it's going to be squaring, there we go, squaring over to Mercury. So there's a little tension here, even though it's nice in Taurus, it's got to maybe communicate something. There could be a bit of tension, on Thursday with communicating from the heart, communicating your needs. Maybe there's some little stubbornness going on and something. Coming into Friday, let's see oh yeah, and then early in the sign too, as soon let me go back, I can see it. As soon as the moon goes in there, it makes aspects over to Pluto, right? It makes a square over to Pluto, and then it makes the square over to Mercury. So moon in the very first part of the sign, it's get a little tense there. It's got a little T square, but then as it moves on into degrees, it will kind of get off of that and relax a little bit. So coming out of Aries into the first part of that, it can be a little uncomfortable. It's like maybe you're all set to just lay down and take a nap, and Amazon comes, or there's a wrong delivery or something like that. It's like, oh man, just get disrupted. Nothing huge, but just, something like that. Okay, Friday, and then here we go with Saturday. We got the moon right on Uranus. So this could be a bit interesting. Again, if you're frazzled already and spent and wrung out and have been doing a lot, it could be a little bit more frazzling. Protect yourself. If you're bored, and you need stimulation, it might be just what the doctor ordered. Um, so that kind of energy is coming in, on Saturday. Could be good for that. But then we get again all the stuff at the beginning degrees. We're going to have this stuff for a while. Look at there. Every time the moon hits the beginning of the degree, let me say it different. Anytime the moon moves into a new sign, it's going to hit all these, somehow make aspects to all of these planets. So we get this conversation right in the beginning. And then here, see also Mars is there. So what do I mean? We get like it's like you wake up all the family, it's like you're sneaking in at night and you wake up the crazy uncle and grandpa and dad and your sister and the dog and your sister's friend who's staying, it's like, and then the aunt, it's like everybody's just now kind of like, this little thing that goes on. So we have Mars energy involved. We've got Pluto, the depth, death, rebirth. We've got, Saturn restructuring. We've got Neptune, confusion or clearing up or dreams. Um, uh, we've got what's it? Uranus was again things out of the blue, disruption, and then right now early, Mercury's still early degrees. We've got communication. So lots of stuff, in those early degrees. And then Sunday we can see, look at how they're moving. Yeah, look at that. It's like they're moving together. Look at Friday I'm sorry, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Watch Mars and Mercury. They're moving like the same speed from our perspective. Look at 4 degrees, then they move five together, they move six, six again, seven. Let's see how long they're going to be there. Eight, and then Mercury pulls ahead nine and gets a little faster. Okay, so this is interesting. So we're coming into next week. I mean, let me just go back a day because things are interesting. I want to show you that. Um, as we come into next week, the moon finishes up into into Gemini, and then it comes over the benefics. Let's just show you that. It goes over over the Jupiter and Neptune and Venus. So this is really nice. So coming into next Tuesday, so I want to plan ahead a little bit. It's a nice day. It's a nice time. It's a good energy. It's good, feeling. Moon is happy in its sign there, and it's going over the benefics. So maybe put something family, home, security, energy together, and maybe kind of plan something for yourself or somebody with that energy, because this is a really nice energy coming into next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as the moon goes in, it's in Cancer. And then the moon will go into Leo. Let me just show you this here. It goes over, it's as we get closer to our new moon next Thursday, or is it, say, what is it going to be? It'll be Friday, next a week from Friday. But it's going to get more dramatic here. And what was I going to tell you about that as we moved on? Um, oh, yeah. Again, as we get into any new sign, let me just go back as the moon, goes into the new sign, it's going to hit those early degrees and involve all those planets. Okay, so that's the week and a half or so ahead. And I want to share one other thing. Get another share. Bear with me. Okay, looking at an ephemeris. Couple of things that we've got coming up now. We're looking at August, and what I want you to notice as a few things. Here's these degrees. Look at Saturn all the way here. See this column right here under the word Gainesville. This is Saturn, and you'll see it at 1 degree. Look at the 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. So we got these planets at these early degrees. Jump over here to Neptune. Look at 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's a little slower moving. Um, what else I want you to look at? Pluto here is showing like two and then 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 because it's all retrograde. And let's go ahead. Move this out of my way if I can. All right, let's go ahead till next month. And I think you can see this. It should be September 2025. Right on September 1st, Saturn moves 29 degrees back into Pisces. So we get a little bit of this old energy back of this, maybe things are going to get a little bit more muddled, a little bit more confused, or maybe we can add a little bit more structure into confusing areas. Maybe we've seen a little Aries light onto things and maybe take that light to reorganize, restructure things before we leave it once and for all, or for the next 29 years, 28 years. And then September 6th, we'll see, let's see, wait, here. Am I showing it here? There we go. Sorry. It's kind of hard to see, but on the 6th of September, you will see Uranus, it goes red right here. So it goes retrograde. You can see that slowing down. Look at the beginning of the month, it's 1 degree, 27, and 28, 28, 28, 28, 28, right there. 28, 28, then we go 27. So we see the retrograde now. So it's going to take the brakes, I mean, take the gas pedal off of a lot of this kind of crazy energy, give us a little break while we maybe simulate some of this. This is the beginning of September coming into the fall. So we have a couple changes coming up again. Uranus is going to, change, it's slow down, it's going to retrograde. And then Saturn again back into a time where it's a little bit more Neptunian, a little bit more nebulous, confusing, tricky, spiritual, dreamy. Okay. And then moving in the next month, one more month ahead. Going into October, Neptune will move into down here on the 22nd. It backtracks also into Pisces. So we get a little bit more confusion here. I would expect things to be kind of mucked up and confused a bit as we get, finishing up in retrograde season. So those are the big things that are happening this next week. And I guess that is it with the shares. Let's see, we just get back to this one. So, is that what I want? Yeah. All right. So just coming into this last part of this week, be in touch with the moon. Moon is into that first part of the chart. It's like a lot about yourself, your identity, your security, your communications, your home. Then we move on into the next level the next week. All right, that is it for now. Have a good week and more to follow. Bye for now.